hear a story about SSNIT. Let's get some education on the process at the EOCO from a former staff there. He's an experienced auditor, like I said earlier, and part of a team that investigated SSNIT some time ago. Mr. Kujo Akpabey is the person who's on the line now, joining us live from University of Ghana, I must say. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon.
Pleasure is mine.
Okay, so let's try to understand the inner workings of EOCO, so we're able to appreciate their style of investigation and what goes into it, and then the outcome. So we're just, if you can just take us briefly through the processes. Yesterday we saw what happened. SSNIT says that EOCO wrote them a letter, and in that letter EOCO is saying that the three top officials of SSNIT have been charged. But what the Attorney General says this morning appears to be different. It seems they have not yet been charged. How does it work at EOCO?
Well, SFO now EOCO doesn't have prosecuting powers. What EOCO does is it does investigation, and when it finishes, it sends the docket to the Attorney General for the Attorney General to take a decision. Okay. If it works prosecuting, then the Attorney General goes ahead. That is how EOCO, before then the SFO, that is how it operates.
So what happened yesterday? Is there a way that you can explain that to us, where we have a report or where we have a letter, a purported letter from EOCO to SSNIT about in fact, they said in a part of it when the secretary reads, she says, so and so and so. So she mentions the name of the people who were involved and said the names of the people involved and says that they were arrested and subsequently charged. Is there any way we can explain that, you know, that happening? I mean, how do we explain that?
Well, EOCO is supposed to have investigators. If I say investigators, financial investigators and lawyers. And where it doesn't have the capacity, for instance, if we are talking about SSNIT issue, it has to do with software. So they could employ the services of an IT person or a software developer to help them investigate. That is what happens.
This morning, I mean, with what the Attorney General has said, how long will it take, for example, and what will it take for the Attorney General to be able to process these people who've been mentioned and who have been indicted in this report to be prosecuted?
Well, it depends on the evidence. If EOCO does a good job and is able to indict them, then the Attorney General, looking at the evidence and the report and all that, the Attorney General will take a decision. But what I'm saying is this: EOCO has to do a thorough job. And if I say a thorough job, thorough investigation. All those who have been indicted must have been interviewed, must have been taken through the process with their statements. It's a whole lot of exercise. I'm talking about, because this involves software and financial as well. So EOCO must have the capacity to do a good job that indicts them.
Now,
other than that,
let me just
when it gets to the Attorney General and the Attorney General is not satisfied, the Attorney General could return the docket to EOCO.
Okay. Well,
I'm not privy to.
Yes, please go ahead.
Hello?
Please go ahead.
I'm not privy to the report. I've been out of town. I just came.
Okay.
So I'm not privy to the report.
So let me just throw in this clarification quickly.
I cannot say.
So let me just throw in this clarification quickly. Let me throw in this clarification quickly. The report, according to the Attorney General, she has received a report from EOCO. So EOCO has already done its work. It's received the report, and it's also received a report from the PricewaterhouseCoopers, which audited SSNIT. So that has already been done. So from what I'm gathering from what you're saying, We just have to wait for the Attorney General to deem the information and the evidence that she has prosecutable. Then she can take an action.
Now from what you're saying, PwC has done some work. Is that it?
Yes.
Because I knew what I knew. I wrote on the PricewaterhouseCoopers audit. They were to do audit review. They were not to do investigation, because this is forensic audit. If we are talking about forensic audit, it's a complete team made up of accountants, lawyers, software developers, IT. So it's a whole lot. And that is not the job of PricewaterhouseCoopers. They did audit review. That's what I learned. But EOCO is supposed to do forensic audit. If I say forensic audit, that's why I'm talking about a whole team, gamut of team.
So based on the letter,
so it's not a small exercise.
I get that. But based on the letter that was read by the company's secretary, Gifty Anand, yesterday at the press conference organized by the board chairman of SSNIT yesterday, EOCO has done its work and presented a report to them. Now, what we need to know at this point is that we have to wait on the Attorney General to decide whether or not the information available to her is prosecutable. Is that correct?
Yes. So if that's what I'm saying, if EOCO has done a good job, which fits the Attorney General's what the Attorney General wants, then the Attorney General will go ahead. It's just a straightforward thing. If EOCO has done a thorough job, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Because it's not that easy. This is a criminal issue.
Very well.
So if EOCO has done a thorough job, then the Attorney General could go ahead and prosecute. Okay,
let me give you this very final question. If you look at the chain of people who are involved in this, we've seen the board, the management, members of or top officials or members of the management, the previous management team who have been mentioned, in this case. But with your knowledge of SSNIT and how it works, and your knowledge of EOCO and how it works, etc., would you say that persons who worked in the procurement office, for example, the procurement office of SSNIT, for example, are perhaps equally responsible for the problems or the financial mismanagement, malfeasance we're seeing at SSNIT, and that they should also be included in this investigation?
In fact, I can't tell. That's why I'm saying that if they are indicted, it means they have taken their statement.
No, I mean, I'm talking, no, that's different. That's different. I'm talking about the procurement office or procurement officer, the procurement officer, or persons who work in the procurement office. We've not heard any names as people who were indicted. We've heard of the top management, but we've not heard anything from persons in the procurement office. Typically, will those people be, you know, liable in this case, or management will just have to bear the brunt?
Sure. If there was a procurement process, then those at the procurement department will have to answer, unless management bypassed the procurement regulations and did what it wanted. Then in that case, it often happens in this country where CEOs, state institutions, CEOs do not follow the laid down procurement regulations. If that is what has happened, then the procurement manager or the one in charge of procurement has no question to answer. It depends on what happened.
Okay. Mr. Akpabey, we'll say a very big thanks to you. If you have any final submission on that, we'll take it. But if not, thank you so much.
Oh, pleasure is mine. That's okay.
Okay. Akpabey there is a private auditor there. He's worked with SSNIT. He's a former staff of EOCO as well, helping us to appreciate what's happening in the information we're getting. So it basically means that we'll have to wait. Technically, based on what the Attorney General said, it doesn't appear to be that these persons have been charged We'll have to wait for the Attorney General's Department to do so, and we'll be on that story. In the meantime, though, JoyNews has gathered that the Social Security and Insurance National Insurance Trust SSNIT will incur additional costs exceeding $4 million a year just to keep the controversial automation system, which has already cost the trust a whopping $147 million running. The addition cost must be paid, although an audit of the system by the PricewaterhouseCoopers, as I said, revealed several defects and instances of double payments for aspects of the software infrastructure. Here is the news desk report on that.
A copy of the executive summary of the audit secured by JoyNews revealed what auditors describe as unavoidable, variable and intangible costs associated with the automation system. Total service-related costs alone that must be paid every year amounts to $4.3 million. This is despite of the fact that the total contract sum has already ballooned from $38 million to a jaw-dropping $147 million. The report also found out that the OBS project faces significant challenges as a result of inadequate project governance and management. It also found instances where payments were made more than once for the same item, while service-level agreement payments also made in advance when items were yet to be delivered. The audit also indicted the former management of SSNIT, led by Ernest Thompson, for failing to disclose the full extent of issues relating to the automation project to the board. In fact, the audit team found that one point management presented to the board the ICT initiatives were ongoing, even though there were significant functional challenges with the OBS. The board itself, led by the NDC presidential hopeful Joshua Alabi, was also questioned for failing to demand accountability for management when there were issues of overspending and poor project management were brought to its attention. Additionally, the audit revealed how the former state management signed up the entire project as having been delivered when at that time the project itself was not fully implemented. In fact, the auditors recommended that SSNIT may have to reconsider replacing the entire pension administration solution together with relevant matching hardware due to the fact that there's potential significant cost may be incurred without the commensurate benefits.
George Rafe with that news desk report.